If I'm not mistaken, if they only win one, they would need a 3-0 by tempo tomorrow. Is that correct? I think that's accurate because right now they share the same game score. And if they both lose, they share the same match score. But if they tie in game score, we'll probably get into this later. You know what? They need wins. That is a definite. They need a series win would be the biggest part because now the best they can do is 3-2.
Yes.
And that still leaves the door open for Endemic tomorrow.
Yeah, and if I'm remembering correctly, too, Team Freedom, the only thing that they needed to not do was be 3-0'd. I'm pretty confident that they're in. They're definitely in, though, if they get the win. Either way, we could postulate around these all the time, but it just goes to show how much each and every game is held importance over who is going to end up there. Let's take a look, though, at some interesting stats, because I've been talking a lot about the feel of these two teams and the identity of them. And for Team Freedom, they have shown an adjustment, and what we have known from them, Octalysis is very team fight focused. And when you look at damage per minute, that you see Octalysis have a higher damage, hero damage per minute, shows that aggressive style. But for Team Freedom, it's more about the siege. So that lends to what we have seen from them, especially in the last game. But the adjustment is definitely coming in for Team Freedom.
It's always, to me, about the total damage per minute that sets teams apart. We have been entering the zone of some later games which can start to have an impact. But overall, it's always going to be that category of the teams with the higher total DPM. It's just the major factor of, yes, the hero damage per minute looks nice for Octalysis, but what else are you doing for me on this map? And the better teams, the best teams that you'll see individually across the board will always have higher total damage per minute because they are being more effective around the battleground. And also you can see the KDA there higher for Team Freedom. They have North American colors. More like United States colors. We'll talk about North America some other time. But the higher KDA in general says that, look, if you're alive, you're also doing more total damage per minute. They're keeping alive in those fights. Despite all the hero damage, it's not paying off just yet for Octalysis.
Octalysis now has their backs against the wall. It's all or nothing. Last game, after losing it, they chose Battleground and took us to Volskaya Foundry. Had to deal with the Team Freedom Sergeant Hammer. What's left for Octalysis now? Okay.
You want to take Hammer and that weird play style out of there. You still run the risk of Stitch's Medivh, but not so much. I think that Tomb is the answer, that if you want to fight, which clearly they like to fight, they like to bring the damage. They've done well. We've seen them play the Tassadar on this map before.
What about Battlefield? It's still up too. You like Tomb better? Tomb is a battleground that both of them like. That's my only concern. Take Freedom off of comfort territory because they just won on a map that you picked on Volskaya.
I think the problem for me with what I've seen from Octalysis on Battlefield of Eternity, going back to the days when they had Cure, it was they would put Cure on the Tyrael, and they would run this really heavy melee comp. We saw them a couple of games ago, a couple of matches ago, where they ran the Li Ming Hammer. It didn't work out.
They've done it twice, though.
And it does not stand out to me as, hey, this is good for you.
Okay.
So for me, Tomb of the Spider Queen has more elements that look better to me for Octalysis. They can win on both, but if I'm Octalysis and I want map pick, maybe Tomb is the go.
Well, that's what they chose last time, but I'm wondering when the switch is flipped, when they opt in for first pick, though that was the first Muradin loss in this series too. They did get their Muradin. That didn't seem to be the answer, though maybe not expecting the Stitch's Medivh. And Lutano's Sergeant Hammer was solid. Everything was designed to keep him alive.
There's always towers if you want to go to towers. We haven't played towers yet. And
yeah.
That is, however, another map where we've seen old Medivh strats. We've seen Sergeant Hammer aplenty on that battleground. We know that they can run the Hammer themselves if they choose to run that. There is that age-old question our boy Haloran said to me. He's like, would Orb build actually work against Sergeant Hammer, getting that extra range and maybe even the cooldown at 4? I don't know. Chromie is hit or miss. I want somebody to show me the Li Ming.
Prismat would be your guy. We are going to Tomb of the Spider Queen. Who is it chosen by, though? Because both these teams have chosen it. Chosen by Team Freedom. Taking us to Tomb. This is an old Octalysis favorite battleground, and they have picked it a few times in part 1. might just be enough for Freedom to end this fairly swiftly, 3-1.
It would be very surprising to me if it ended here. For Team Freedom, they win and they're in at the Western Clash. Things are on the uptick for them. That would also firmly place them amongst the top 3 in North America. Their record would be 5-2. That's pretty standout considering you see the struggle between the 3, 4, 5, and well, 3, 4, and 5 is really where that struggle's been at. 6, 7, and 8, not so much. It's like there's 3 tiers. There's 1 and 2, and then there's 3, 4, and 5, and then there's 6, 7, and 8. And some of those 6 and 7 teams are working their way up. So
yeah, we've heard a lot about LFM. We'll get to see them tomorrow versus no tomorrow, though that has no bearing on Western Clash. That's a match that no doubt will come back to haunt the loser of that match, talking about the Crucible and who gets to play through the playoffs.
It's always better when tomorrow you get no tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Not confusing at all to your brain when you're saying it out loud.
Yep. So Tracer will continue to be the band by Octalysis.
Genji? Nope.
Sergeant Hammer. First pick is also won in every match so far of the first 3 games. Urel. We've seen so much Urel, so much Murden. Octalysis is Tassadar. Are they willing to pair that in the early part of this draft with another hero? Is it Murden? Is it Urel? This is a Diablo map. We could also see Diablo come out.
Every game, or most games for Octalysis on Tomb has been Urel early, Phoenix later, but Phoenix has been taken away. They've been willing to play Stitches here. First pick on Urel, no surprise. Freedom on Tomb, usually a Genji or a Johanna first pick with a Genji ban. And they often like to play Greymane and then a mage here, and they've played a couple of different mages.
Well, the Jaina on this battleground
With Johanna.
Yeah, has been very strong for a lot of teams. We'll get the Phoenix and the Diablo, the old lightning breath into salvo, amplifying that damage. A tried and true combination. It also says that Zugra can be aggressive with his team. Will he get the Deckard to follow it up, the Malfurion to follow it up? There's a lot that I think goes into that. Deckard is very appealing to that style of composition. If the Deckard is banned away, could we potentially get the Kerosene?
Could possibly even see them pick up Tassadar. Tassadar is a good pairing with Phoenix, gives more wave clear. But Octalysis this time get Hanzo. Could be for Draded, could be for Prismat, depending on who needs to flex over to which. I think because it's Tomb, it's very likely that we could see another, or a mage for either team be picked up in those next damage dealing spots.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
Oh, so Grug Smash! You mean like that?
No way you try Cho'Gall twice in one series, right?
Grug Smash!
No way you try Cho'Gall twice in one series, right?
Was it just to try to elicit the ban? Grug. It can't be Grug anyway. Zugrug's gonna play Diablo. Yeah, okay. Greymane and Deckard Cain. Well, if you want a siege, Odin can stop that pretty well. And now they have the siege hero in Greymane. You've got the follow-up of Deckard Cain.
Tychus also does well. Once Diablo has souls,
yes,
minigun does do very well. We don't see Tychus as often. Johanna Murden, what do we got?
I'll bring back Junkrat.
So it gives you wave clear in abundance on this map. Gives you a lot of poke and denial. Hanzo, scatter arrow, sonic arrow, Urel can contest. Johanna flashlight, Junkrat, grenades. Does very well around the control. Leo will be the solo laner of choice to round it out for Team Freedom.
which means you have the capabilities for Entomb into Shadow Charge, Entomb into Lightning Breath, the good old Easy Bake Oven, and you have Drain Hope versus Uriel, trying to get that percent base damage in. Junkrat is back in NA. This is the first time that we've seen him this weekend, but he has been popping back up ever since the 3rd ban. And he will. They have a ton of wave clear in this. It just... Freedom's draft feels whole. It feels complete. It feels like it has everything that each person needs, and I feel like it's Freedom who has this. What do you think?
That not being a Blaze, unless my eyes deceive me, no Blaze shows up in this draft. Leo is clearly there for the lockdown. Maybe it's a Uriel counter we haven't experienced too much yet. Uriel obviously holds her own. If you can hit the Drain Life, that's a nice chunk of damage, but Uriel more than likely will just continue to heal it up. She's pretty good at that.
Well, there's no Blaze for Octalysis either. There are a couple of people who can jump over an Entomb, but there's no back door out of the Entomb created by a bunker either.
A very, very good point. So for Octalysis, potentially their lives on the line for Western Clash. They need every win possible. In defeat, a victory would go a long way to increase their odds of making it to Western Clash. But make no mistake about it, a win here, even in defeat, is very, very important.
That it is. Finish out this series, and then watch Endemic versus Tempo Storm tomorrow. And put their faith in, I believe Tempo is who they would want to be rooting for in that one. Goku's going to dive over the wall. Adjusting it, gets shoved into the tower range using his Iron Skin to soak up those shots. So the wave clear Octalysis has a lot of. Junkrat, he later on gets a couple of big spikes. Ripper Air increases your mobility so much so you can go all over the place soaking up, and then at 16 for your nades, whatever you want to get there, increases your damage.
It has been a while since I have seen the cocktail picked up at level 1.
This was buffed slightly back. It was like nerfed and then it was buffed. The amount of mana refund.
Yeah, it's the mana refund upon hitting heroes. Leo and Uriel having it out in the bot lane. The thing for Freedom that they have between a Phoenix and a Greymane is the capability to pick up a siege camp solo behind enemy lines. See if they're willing to make that move.
Their siege in general is terrifying. They would love to get a win on, or kill on Nasmus if they could. Also would love to get a win. But the siege between Greymane and Phoenix is scary for Freedom and or for Octalysis, and they don't want to allow what we've seen in a lot of NA. When you have the higher siege capabilities, you take a range down to the bottom constantly to aid your solo in being able to put some damage on those towers. And then once you get the first Web Weaver phase, then you push those down and you look to maybe even force back your opponent and get the fort along with it, and that just sets you up so well for success. And Octalysis, they are respecting that. We've seen a lot of rotations from them down to the bottom so that they don't do that. And they're also working on getting some turn-ins with that wave clear that they do have.
Every little bit helps, as we've seen from Tempo Storm, controlling the early game turn-ins. I believe it was Tempo Storm that used that play against Team Freedom. Was that the game where Team Freedom didn't get a single turn-in? Or a single Web Weaver phase?
There was someone who didn't. I just don't remember.
I think it was Tempo versus Freedom. Either way, we've seen the minuscule turn-ins, those micro turn-ins, have a pretty large impact towards the early part of the game and the longevity of the games, because if you can deny them, and with Uriel, Johanna, as I said in the draft, there are a lot of turn-in denial options for Octalysis.
A lot of good poke there. Freedom have some too, although using your crowd control from Deckard. Not necessarily what he wants to do there. Wants to make sure that he has that after Diablo, which is why maybe we do see perfect aim, so that you have the Gilnean cocktail increased range, so that he can be an effective staller of turn-ins. And we're starting to get to the point in the game where teams have enough gems to get those first web weavers. We'll see who's able to get that.
Oh.
Wow.
Okay, first off, that was a Hand of Freedom used by Goku to try and get him out of danger. But that charge could not have come even a fraction of a second later. That was perfect for Zugrug to go in.
He was mid-cartwheel, mid-backflip. That is frustrating for Team Octalysis, but they can't let it get to them. Not now, not when they are closer to the turn-in. And they are doing such a good job. They've put the last couple of games that they've lost behind them. And that's exactly what they have to do here. There's no more room for error.
Scatter arrow, they waited for the engage. The roots follow up. Zugrug still pretty healthy at this point. Gets the fire stop. W build, extremely powerful to sustain in fights.
Yes.
Cocktail at 7. We are going cocktail build. Once you hit 15 heroes with the splash behind it, you get the cooldown reduction and you get some damage to go along with it as it goes up.
Well, you know, Junkrat and Hanzo are mobile, but weak, squishy. So if you're looking at hitting the front line with that, but getting the splash on the back line as a result, Malfurion does not have the burst heal capabilities. He's just reliant on being able to moonfire enough people to heal them back up. And might be able to get a kill from it, if nothing else, than just get a lot of damage done to that back line. 37 gems turned into the 48 that Octalysis has had for a while. They just can't, ever since they lost Prismaticism, they haven't been able to get back in a way of controlling these turn-in points long enough. Nice zoning from Justing as Draded looked to be a target of a pick.
More time spent defending these than there will be clearing lanes and getting camps at this point. Both teams recognize the importance of getting the turn in, especially now when the race towards 10 is in effect, and getting structures down during the first turn in would net you 10. Nice scatter arrow there by Prismat. Goku now looking to get the turn in. Deckard
has the stop.
Should have the stop.
Did have the stall, use the cube with the slow to do it. Octalysis are just back and forth between these two turn-ins. Both teams are, but with two so close, so many different people have the gems needed to get that turn-in. Octalysis are gonna force back Team Freedom a lot because they have Buds trying to channel this out. Yoda sees it now with the cube and the Scroll of Sealing. It's stopped again. Nasmus, though, falling low. Buds coming in. Looks to get the root at the gate.
Oh, the Treant. Oh. One more interrupt. Can they get another collusion in point? That allowed enough time for Team Freedom to get the turn in top. Not only that, but they are really close to 10.
Octalysis was so focused on that bottom. They let their focus on the top turn-in drop for a second, and Team Freedom got it. The great masterminds of the near Leoric kill, collusion being around 2, web weavers, heroic abilities now coming in, and just go for the throat. No cursed bullet this game, J-How.
Lornado, Justin says, I got iron skin. He can survive the tornado. Try to get that insta-kill. 10 picked up here for Octalysis as they look to defend against the first web weavers coming out from Team Freedom.
Mid gone. Well done there. Bottom still about halfway, and top too. Top is where the rotation's coming in from Team Freedom. Octalysis chooses to match. All the towers gone, though, has given Freedom a lead, but because that was such a stalled web weaver phase, a stalled turn-in phase, Octalysis have 10, so they have time to try to get those couple of gems in. But Team Freedom also never lost any gems, so they have enough for a second right away if they can get those into the clutches of the web weaver queen. Nethys, I think, is her name.
I'm glad you know. I'm just glad I know she's under Sky Temple now.
Yep. The more you know.
For Octalysis, they need 2. That's it. They need 2. The goaltending by both teams is strong. Justin in deep, That's forcing out the Tranquility. Salvo comes out, as is the Lightning Breath. The Riptire comes out. Yoda got to be careful. He's going to get pulled in. He's going to be first kill here in this team fight. Nasma's trying to walk away, but so is Justin and team. They got the turn in. More importantly, they got their first kill of the game.
Gems picked up by Team Freedom, but I thought there was no way Justin would live there. Not after you used Iron Skin, and then the Entomb drops around you. Tranquility has to be used, but because of the rotation in from Goku and the find of Phoenix up in the front, the punishment there for Octalysis is enough that they can get these Web Weavers up on just about every lane on the structures. And they'll look to undo the damage dealt by Team Freedom and the Web Weavers of their own.
Remember, Lornado was the pickup, so if anybody steps forward just a tiny amount, and Collusion will look to isolate them, and Zugrug will look to follow up. There's the Lornado. By space, by control. Both teams will have enough for a turn-in at the end of this. See if we get the standoff. Experience looking dead even again at the end of that. So the battle continues. These teams have played even throughout almost every single one of these games, minus the Braxis game, which ripped Cho'Gall.
I think we can write that one off, though.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was a strategy that didn't pan out, that they had prepared with the first game. But every other game has been splitting hairs for who gets the victory and who can climb ahead with their objectives. Here the clear is really good by Team Freedom. They forced out the lanes quickly so that they could make rotations between the two turn-in points. Octalysis bringing in Goku, setting up the concave. Zugrug and the rest of Freedom respecting that, back off.
Yoda continuing his trend to go armor at 13, one of the players that does this more often than not. Was buffed not long ago, so getting 50 armor when you do warp. So whether you warp in or out, you'll have that available.
Every camp is up. If someone felt like they could move someone in to take a camp, it's slightly easier for Freedom, given that they have someone like a Gray Mane. But neither team has been willing. Justin finds a target. The root, the Dragon's Arrow, Riptire also came out. Not necessary, but willing to use it just to get that crucial kill.
They got the pick set up by Bless Shield. Bless Shield, short cooldown. Dragon Arrow only at 70 seconds. Lornado, that is another short cooldown at only 40. So that'll be used to interrupt. Scroll not able to get the denial on one turn-in. Bud starting to get another 34 out of 55 now in for Octalysis.
Whoever gets this next turn-in, it will be such a victory. And that is Octalysis, purely based on getting the kill on Yoda. Because both teams had amassed almost 90 gems. It is scary to fight when you don't have any of those turned in, and Freedom has none of them turned in behind this. If they lose someone in the fight and the defense of this, not only is Octalysis get a chance to get 16 ahead of Freedom, to get way farther ahead, but starting to lose some of those gems would be catastrophic when they need those to start bringing down the forts of Team Octalysis.
Well, Team Freedom, they'll have their chance here in the top lane. Phoenix dealing with the middle. Decent clear there. As this fort falls, the experience will climb for Octalysis to get closer to 16. I think they're trying to cut their losses as Team Freedom. They clear out the mid. The top will inevitably push down itself. Urel, as you see on the minimap, looking to flank up out of vision for potential fight, and Freedom is playing this very patiently.
Well, if they had defended and hung around top for too long, then it's likely to go down anyway, and then they haven't cleared out mid or especially bot, and suddenly they're facing an issue of Octalysis having 16 and them all being in the bottom. Octalysis do have the 16 though, they're at 15.5, they being Team Freedom. Octalysis immediately starts the boss. And Freedom, they know that this was likely to be the rotation. They had things cleared out so they could still be in the top, but not having 16, they're not willing to risk this. They'd rather just deal with the defense of this boss, which they can do with heroes like Phoenix and Greymane.
Well, the turn-in sometimes is responded with somewhat quicker. Team Freedom will still get the turn-in. That boss already on its way down that top lane. So the Web Weavers will come in. Team Freedom also managed to start their Bruisers. So this will supplement the push. Mid, find their way back in, but the boss definitely going to maintain its value in the top lane. For Team Freedom, they'll need to find the value here in the mid lane, behind this camp, in the bot lane where that is pushed out, being dealt with by Urel. If Team Freedom can find the setup, this is the chance for Octalysis. They might want to take the same approach that we just saw from Team Freedom and back away from this situation. This mid fort, it's some experience as the Riptire, I believe that got interrupted by the Lornado.
Giant Slayer for Hanzo, trying to do more to take out the strong front line of Team Freedom between the Leoric and Diablo. Got to see the instance there. It's Scatter Arrow and Basic Arrows from Hanzo. With Bruisers, along with the Web Weaver, the mid lane takes out a fort, the first fort of the game for Team Freedom. Bot lane, though, was dealt with, so only one fort for this turn-in, and there is a very interesting trend happening in NA, where we have slowed games down quite a bit, J-How.
Everybody watches Europe before they watch North America, and I think our players are watching it too, where those are slow games. EU has a high macro focus, which sometimes leads to lesser kills, longer games. That turn-in for Team Freedom, I think, was good. It did get them a fort, but more importantly, it got them map control. If you look at the map from top to bottom, those lanes are fairly well pushed out. The top was just cleaned out by Octalysis, and they have enough for another turn-in behind this. Here's going to be the charge in. Ice Block was used. That was the interrupt onto the salvo. They're trying to confirm the kill onto Buds. He stays alive, but Lutano comes in. He's going for the throat, tries to get the reset onto Prismat. Riptire on return. He's trying to go, but that is interrupted again, and now here comes the salvo. Trying to confirm the kills. Justine's going to fall, as is multiple members here of Octalysis, and Team Freedom brought the fight to Octalysis.
The focus on Buds. He used Tranquility, waited out as long as he could. Lightning Breath forced him into the Ice Block, but coming out of that, the Lightning Breath was still there. Getting the kill there was big. Even bigger, though, the interrupt on the Riptire, and then the follow-up having the salvo damage cut through both Junkrat and Johanna, and those kills have blown this game wide open in a way that Web Weavers simply could not in this game. Team Freedom steal the Bruisers. They have Web Weavers behind this. They're quickly working on taking out a keep, getting catapult pressure in the mid. What else can they do?
This might be game. They have enough push potential here to end the game. This Spell Aura is strong enough for them to dive upon this. Goku goes in, gets the knockback. Scatter Arrow continues to have to fight here. Web Weavers are approaching. Yoda able to warp out in time. They're holding on. Octalysis, they need wins, but right now Team Freedom is trying to seal the deal. And in this game, 3-1, it's still very early. The Web Weaver already at half health. Team Freedom, I thought they would look for some type of engagement, but they're not even willing to risk it, Gilly.
It's a scary time. Team Freedom desperate to get that win so they can correct what happened to them at the last Western Clash, and they'll play it patiently knowing that it's their game to lose. Go top, get the fort here, get closer to 20, get that talent tier lead over Team Octalysis. Octalysis, gonna make sure that everything is a-okay with them.
You'll see. Hey.
Why, hello there. Man, this is it's a tense moment. Team Freedom being able to get the win here solidifies their spot in being able to go to the Western Clash. Not sure about standings there, but even still being able to get that win. Octalysis just trying to hang on. But the Junkrat he's having a hard time having any Riptires go off J-How.
Lornado, clear focus on that. The minute that goes out, send the Lornado out. Diablo got the last interrupt. Things are struggling. That Riptire might have been able to confirm the kill onto the Gray Main. That's when he was in pursuit there. But so far, it's been thwarted twice, and that goes that when it gets interrupted, it's on cooldown. So the interrupts have been great against that. The positioning, I don't know if Junkrat needs to go further back. Obviously, he's finding himself in position as we resume the action here. Team Freedom, a massive wave pushing in top, will be dealt with grenades. Goku comes in the backside, gets the hammer, the toss in. There's going to be the Riptire. Lutano, he's going to be the first to fall. The salvo comes out with the lightning breath. Octalysis bringing the fight. 20 was picked up, but there's Zugrug. He's caught it. Buried alive. The body block is going to be there. He has souls. He will be back on the battleground, but that is 2 members down, and now Octalysis, they get the kills. They fight their way back. That also gives them comeback experience. They're now 19.5. They just fought themselves back in the game. They are still down a keep, but they desperately needed that fight.
Their backs are against the wall, and they still were willing to bring the fight there when Freedom were not willing to risk trying to end the game, trying to get kills there while Octalysis were in base. And the Dragon's Arrow setup, Goku diving over the wall to get the follow-up, and this time the Riptire surprising in a way that could not be dealt with by Team Freedom. It is just enough that Octalysis get 20. They're going to have Web Weavers back in the field. They need to clear out these Giants. They need to push out lanes so that they can get something out of these Web Weavers.
For Octalysis, they have enough, or will have enough at the end of this, unless they lose any. They'll have enough gems for another turn-in. So this is a moment that if you don't have enough for another turn-in, you would have to hard push lanes to confirm a keep to even up this map in some degree. Instead, there's going to be a Dragon Arrow. Here comes Goku. He's going to have to jump in.
Deckard.
They've got Deckard. Deckard goes down instantly. Zugrug, he's low. He's low on souls, Gilly.
He's low, but he's got the slows too. Turns around, just tries to get the lightning breath to set up the salvo, which does go off, but does nothing to Octalysis. Octalysis, all they had to do was get those 2 kills, and they find every bit of momentum left in them with their backs against the wall to get back in. The Web Weaver here, Nasmus going to try to scare them off if he can, but Octalysis are out for a keep. They're out for blood. They're out for a Game 5 against Team Freedom.
They've got to take this right now. Leo's going to fall, and that's going to be enough for Octalysis to continue to move forward. They have control. The Web Weaver at their back. They are going directly to the core. They want to even this up, and they will do that as they take down Lutano. We are going to a game number 5. Octalysis is keeping their Western Clash hopes alive. They are brightening the picture with every single movement over the last 2 minutes, and this has been enough for Octalysis to come back.
It seemed almost impossible for them after a slow Tomb of the Spider Queen game, back and forth, Web Weavers upon Web Weavers that got next to nothing, maybe fort towers, maybe a fort. Then Team Freedom blows the game open. They take a keep because they're a team that knows when they get kills, they know how to use them. And it seemed like it was pretty much done. It was signed in ink. But then Octalysis willing to bring the fight one last time, not going to let things go down the way Team Freedom had them chosen, and because of that, we get a Game 5.
It was a clutch fight. They fought into that, and right before that, Team Freedom elected not to try and end the game through the middle. In those situations, teams will move forward, look for a pick, and if they don't find it, they'll back out. Team Freedom has this penchant to, they'll kind of look for a pick, but they won't always fully commit. They didn't fully commit. They backed out, wanted to play the 20 game. They were not 20 when they pushed that top. And at that moment, Octalysis is like, what if we fight them right before? That is their best shot. Freedom can walk away from that with 20 and then play the 20-tier advantage for a few minutes while Octalysis desperately tries to get back into the game. But Team Freedom took that to them in the top lane. They tried to force 20 instead of top, instead of force the game in the mid. Either way, you're fighting at 19. Are you willing to fight for a top keep, or are you willing to fight for the core? And Team Freedom opted to fight for a keep wall in 20 as opposed to fight for the core. You chose that as Team Freedom. That is the difference of Team Freedom versus some of the other teams. Their lack of committal in clutch moments like that, it's like, all right, well, now you're just fighting into what we want. This is our best shot on the side of Octalysis, and Octalysis capitalized on it big time there.
They did, but Team Freedom still were the ones who had control of a lot of that game, and Freedom are the type of team that's able to reset their mentality heading into something as scary as a Game 5 when it's a qualification on the line. We'll see if they can do that, though. We're going to go to a commercial break. When we come back, Game 5, the final game of the night.